Hey guys, what's going on? Back again with another video. As you can see, a couple days ago, maybe like 2 days ago, Jason Schreier, who is pretty much a journalist, a reporter in the video game industry, and I don't usually do these types of videos. I know a lot of people say that, but I honestly don't because it goes against everything that I usually talk about, and it kind of is a good example of everything that I talk about. So this is kind of why I decided to actually talk about it in the end. And it's my second time recording this because the first time I actually clicked on the video. I clicked on the link for the article. I don't know the do's and don'ts of like I guess websites and stuff like that. Are you allowed to show the article? Because once you click on the article at Bloomberg.com, it asks you to pay for a subscription to Bloomberg's website so you can get like the latest news and stuff like that. So just to give a little bit of a backstory, if you're not familiar, because I myself am not a little bit too familiar with him. I've heard his name here and there a little bit, but like I said, it goes against everything that I believe in, and I try not to promote trolls because pretty much people label themselves as a critic or reporter, but they're really just trolls. They pick who they want to troll or hate on, and that's the other thing too. They're pretty much kind of like a hater in itself, where they just kind of hate on certain people to generate clicks and views and revenue and stuff like that. Not to say that people aren't entitled to their own opinion. It's just that these people just always have negative opinions and they always hate on people because they know, um, as far as the news world goes, decades and probably centuries ago, rumors and clickbait and stuff like that, criticism gets the most views, gets the most people riled up, emotionally involved, and it could be even considered like being a hate monger, where people are just gonna agree with you, and the pitchfork and torch mob scene type example. But with all that being said, because that is pretty much a mouthful, again, Jason Schreier reports for Bloomberg, and if you click on the link, it'll bring you to the article. Again, this is my second time recording this because, like I said, I clicked on it and I didn't want to get myself in trouble because it could be a I don't know if news articles are considered like copyrighted material now and stuff like that. So I decided to redo this again, maybe even be a little bit more straightforward. I think I tiptoe around some of the topics in the first version of this, but again, Jason Schreier is kind of like a critic, a troll, however you want to put it. And he decided to make an article about BioShock's creator, as you can read by the title, Ken Levine. He was the lead writer, lead creative director, owner of the studio that made the BioShock games, BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite. But he closed down his studio, which was called Irrational Games, in 2014, and he um, created a new studio called Ghost Story Studios, and it's a smaller studio. Really, just a handful of people work at the studio. And he did that, in believe, in like 2014, as the article says, right after they created BioShock Infinite. It was, I guess, if you kind of do some research, BioShock Infinite was a huge undertaking where it involved a lot of people to make the game. He kind of remade the game a couple times. He scrapped a lot of the content, made new content. And the reason I decided to talk about this also is because I just recently got into BioShock. I just played it for the first time a couple months ago. I just finished BioShock Infinite, and it opened a whole new world to me as far as like how video games are made. Without going into too much detail, I pretty much have always played Call of Duty games, and ironically enough, 2K basketball games and stuff like that. So those are the two main games that I've always played, is pretty much 2K basketball and Call of Duty. Never did BioShock, never did Borderlands, never did any of that stuff until very recently. Again, so the article, and again, like I said, this kind of helps prove my point that, like, don't listen to everything that you read, because well, I'm going to talk about the article real quickly, and then I'm actually going back to what I wanted to say about Jason Schreier and just trolls in the gaming world itself, and critics. Like I said, critics have been around since probably the time of William Shakespeare, and poets back then and stuff like that. So this is nothing new. Um, they just put a negative spin on everything. But basically, the article talks about how Ken Levine, who is again was the creator of the BioShock games and the studio, he owned the studio, who the studio eventually got bought by 2K Games or Take Two Games. He is pretty much like a micromanager, and he's kind of nitpicky, and he's kind of a perfectionist. And that's what I want to talk about, and why I say it's really important not to listen to what I call like the Call of Duty YouTube, the haters and the toxic negative haters that put a negative spin on everything. Because um, in a nutshell, all it's basically saying, and this is how I'm interpreting it, um, is that Ken Levine likes to micromanage. You'll never have any um, work that's considered your own, because he pretty much, Ken Levine, wants to tell you exactly how to do stuff, how stuff should be done, and he doesn't really convey that message in the best way. And that's how I would. That's the thing too. When you explain it in a positive way, it's not going to generate as much click and hit, and you're not going to get any new subs or followers. But in a nutshell, it's saying that Ken Levine wants done stuff perfected in a certain way, even if it means redoing it like 5 or 10 times. Now, on the other hand, 2014 was 7 years ago, and ever since that, he was supposed to be making a game. Now, I have to admit, Take Two or 2K Games have been more than generous, giving him the financial freedom and time to make his game. Because we're pushing on, and the article says that yeah, it's been pushing on 8 years now, and how BioShock and BioShock Infinite took like 5 years to make. We're up until 8 years, even though BioShock Infinite and BioShock have been pretty much perfected, and it's really good games, and it led a lot of way for other video games and how video games are made today. Um, but again, the article puts a negative spin on it, how it makes it sound like he's just an evil person that doesn't want you to do stuff the right way. But what I talked about even in the first time recording this is the issue I think is that Ken Levine's 55. You can't expect someone who, first of all, might not have the intellectual genius like you have to explain stuff to them. I hate to even sound this way, but it's like you can't explain stuff to someone if they don't get it the first, third time you say it to them, second, third time. They're not going to get it after that. Somebody should, if you are very intelligent, could be able to pick up and understand stuff on the first or second time you tell them. So he probably gets frustrated talking to younger people, or people that aren't experienced, or just people that aren't, as genius, I guess, as he is. Now, that's to say, like, how many people are you going to hire that can be on the same level as you are? You're probably talking about one in, like, probably a million, 500,000 people are considered smart or geniuses, or whatever the number is. You can't expect hiring somebody, and that even goes talking about salary or expected salary. If you're paying somebody like, let's say 30,000 a year, or whatever, 35,000, 40,000 a year, that person is probably not going to be the most you know genius person you're going to hire. Somebody who is probably just breaking into the industry, or kind of just new at it, not experienced. And I guess basically, before I end up going sounding like I'm pretty much just rambling, is that Ken Levine to a point has to realize a couple things. Like I said, you can't expect a young 20-year-old to just instantly get what you're talking about, and on top of that, you got to think about intellectual level. That somebody on an intellectual level isn't going to get it, and it's kind of similar to stuff that I see that go on YouTube and social media and stuff like that. But like I said, it's easy to put a negative spin on it. So I do want to mention that you should probably read the article, but keep in mind that people like Jason Schreier, people like big YouTubers got to that point in their career by just stepping on people and hating on people because they know people are going to click on a video that has a thumbnail, and it's newspapers, like I said, have been doing it for centuries and decades or whatever. Um, but a newspaper heading and a newspaper photo, it's gonna, force you or want you to buy that newspaper and read that article. And Ken Levine even said it when it came to BioShock Infinite, how he got some criticism. He's like, hey, the truth is, whatever you put on the box art, it's going to get people to buy it or get interested in the game. You can't have it look so, innocent, whatever. You got to be a little bit aggressive, and you got to want people to buy your game or pick it up and read it or read about the game or look into it. So, again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm picking sides. I'm just trying to go um, down the fence or whatever. But again, with that being said, he pretty much just I guess the article puts it is a little bit too aggressive, too hands-on, micromanages a little bit. But the thing I wanted to kind of mention too, lastly, is I can tell you right now, Jason Schreier, if he works for Bloomberg and he reports to them, if he had a boss like this, there's no way he would write an article about his boss. He would say that his boss is very intellectual, his boss is a genius, his boss is a perfectionist, his boss hires good people, his boss wants done a certain way. But because of the negative aspect of YouTubers and content creators and critics, whatever, they have to put a negative spin on anything. But I think if you read the article too, or if you go to his Twitter, people are gonna some people are like split down the middle. Some people say, hey, that's how you get stuff done. He has a vision that nobody else has, and it's gonna be hard. Now the only other recommendation I have, if there's any other managers like that, is you gotta get somebody who's closer to their age. You gotta find like an assistant manager or a lead that can relay your message as a 55-year-old genius perfectionist down to someone who is a beginner in their 20s, new, and doesn't have the same intellectual level. You got to find somebody who is maybe in their 30s, mid 30s, early 30s, or maybe in the same age bracket, because it's pretty sad. The article says that they make fun of him in the studio, and they mock him and stuff like that. It's because of the type of people that you're hiring too. I mean, there's got to be a better hiring process. Maybe he doesn't get involved. Maybe he doesn't have the best HR. Maybe you can't discriminate. Maybe you got to hire everyone. You can't just pluck out Harvard graduates. Not that anybody at Harvard or Yale or Ivy Leagues are in there to go into the video game industry, but it's a tough pill to swallow probably for him, that you have to realize that he might have had some genius people working for him during BioShock days, but he doesn't have that liberty, especially when you're in a smaller studio and you probably can't afford to hire the best people. Maybe he thought he can do like maybe a coach that goes to a small private or public college or public high school and wants to change the way that people are. But unfortunately, if Ghost Story Studios puts out an ad in the paper for a job opening, and you're only paying like 30,000, 35,000, the people or the quality of people you're gonna get are gonna be entry level, people that have no experience, maybe people that, um, you know, that are just looking to work with him. But you're not if versus putting that same job posting for like 100,000, you're gonna get some of the best people looking to work for you for 100,000 versus maybe like 30. And this is all through assumption that maybe he has to kind of step back and look at like what he's doing wrong. And maybe he's not a business person. Maybe he's more of a an artist, not necessarily a business person. Maybe he has to get 2K more involved, maybe 2K, or maybe hire a business manager and say, hey, look, you're not hiring the best people. You can't expect to get the best work out of these people, and that's the bitter truth. Anyways, it's an interesting article if you guys want to check it out. I'll leave it at that because I can literally go on for hours, because I've seen everything, pretty much in the working world and the business world, that like he's gonna have to step back to a point, maybe hire a business manager, hire better HR people, hire somebody closer to the age of some of the artists that he has, and the article paints him as a bad person, but like I said, you got to keep in mind that just is just to get clicks and views and stuff like that. So, um, it does make me wonder too what's coming for BioShock. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about really quickly is what I think he should do. He should probably jump on BioShock 4 and maybe help out with that. Maybe give this a break if 2K is willing to have him do that. Maybe just kind of lend his opinions or some insight on what he thinks should be done. Because if you play Infinite, I mean, it's no big secret. It's like a great game, almost to perfection. Um, but he probably should have stuck with BioShock. And that's the thing too. Some of these people grew up maybe watching athletes in the 90s and maybe thought that he could take a team to the championship, that is pretty much was a ragtag team, so to speak. But that's never gonna really work. Or maybe he was fooled a little bit, thinking that he can take uh, a team. I don't know who. Maybe like Tom Brady and the Bucks take a team to the championship. Um, but I mean, it's been 8 years. And some of these athletes have done it within 1 or 2 or 3 years, but 8 years uh, to develop a game is pretty lengthy, to put it that way. Anyways, I'll see you guys later.